Hey, hi everyone. Thanks for joining me tonight. Uh, I'll let people figure out where this video sparked and won't start for a few minutes. It's always a struggle for me to make sure I hit the right uh, buttons and set it up so that it lands where it's supposed to. Hopefully, it'll work tonight. Thank you so much for joining me here. Uh, I I did do a poll this week as to last my last recording anyway. I've had some family issues, but last uh, live event that I did, I indicated that I would be covering supplemental needs trust next, and so I posted a poll about, is that something that you want to know about, or do you really not have an interest in it? I didn't get a lot of feedback either direction, so I'm just going to move forward and I'll do this. And then if we need to cover some other topic or comments come in and indicate that I should cover a different topic, then then we'll do that. I'm always looking for topics, so if you guys think of something, post a comment. I think you can even pick anonymous if you guys don't want to be posting by your name or whatever. I think that option is at the top of the group. But either way, post a comment or just send me a DM and say, could you cover this for me? I'd be happy to do it. Most of you know me. I'm my name's Ron Baranski, and I'm a attorney licensed in Texas since 2003. I've practiced in a variety of different legal areas, all the way from family law and consumer bankruptcy to oil and gas work. And then the last 10 years has been primarily focused in estate planning. And uh, during that time, I would say that uh, basically I moved from 50% to 90% of my practice being estate planning, and the other 10% is likely real estate and contract review and negotiations for various matters. But basically 90% of my practice is estate planning, and supplemental needs trusts fall into estate planning. Uh, there's a couple different types, but the one we're going to talk about tonight is a supplemental needs trust. They're also called special needs trust. That's third party has a third party grantor, which simply means a third party funded the trust and paid for it. So for parents that have minor children that are disabled, intellectually challenged, or physically disabled, and they're going to probably need a lifetime of care. Uh, this is one option for that, and that's where you're the third party because you're not the child paying for the trust. So it could be parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, uh, people like that could set up a supplemental needs trust for the benefit of someone that either is a minor child or an adult child that has some disability and would likely qualify for governmental assistance. That's what the supplemental needs trust does for you. Is it prevents any assets that you put into the supplemental needs trust as being counted towards the beneficiaries' resources when they make application for federal resources like SSI or state resources like Medicaid. Um, so it's a good tool, and it's in also just brings some peace of mind to you maybe a parent of a child in this situation. Uh, you know, people say a lot of times, what's the biggest benefit? What How does this help me the most? And it all comes back to the governmental resources. I mean, if you're like me, if the government's going to pay something, we know it's not a lot, but they're going to pay something for this person's care and ongoing health. Uh, we would just assume they did it than we put money into a fund and then it pays all of their costs. If you know what I'm saying is we set the trust up just to avoid it being counted against the child. They can start up with SSI and uh, Medicaid and whatever else they may need immediately, because this is going to be treated separate than their resources because they can't just reach into it and get the cash. Neither should you or the trustee that you appoint. Uh, there's a lot of flexibility with supplemental needs trust to an extent. I would highly recommend that a close family friend, caregiver, somebody like that, but somebody you also trust, is someone that you would name as trustee over this trust. Because there are some rules, and sometimes things get handled a little looser uh, when it's the parents or the trustee versus when there's a third party and maybe the parents make a request and say, my child needs this or that to improve their life, maybe their mobility, whatever it may be. But the real key thing here is anything spent out of that trust must benefit the beneficiary, the disabled person. So it's not like you can have cash withdrawals that are not accounted for, uh, because ultimately you could find yourself in a place where your supplemental needs trust is disregarded and it really impacts the benefits that would be provided to your child. Uh, uh, so there's kind of a not an absolute list of what you can do, but a list in general. And let's just say that whether you have 10 million or 100,000 in this trust, look at it as a reasonably prudent person would uh, when you're looking at the expenditures you're going to make. Uh, well, you can pay for a vehicle for your child, uh, a vehicle that's been adapted to deal with their disability through this trust. They probably don't need a Bentley. I don't even know how they would fit into one, but I'm just saying it needs to be reasonable. But some things the supplemental needs trust can cover is uh, medical medical expenses and other healthcare expenses that uh, aren't typically covered by government programs. Uh, could also cover various medical equipment that might not be covered. It can cover a home, or it can cover modifications to a home to assist the disabled person, um, and to make their life easier throughout the weeks and throughout the months. It can even provide for uh, their ongoing education to the extent that's available, uh, and they're able uh, to do that, or vocational training. And all of this doesn't have to be just to get a job, but it's just to make their life better. It's to make their life where they can add to society. They feel a purpose, and whether they're working in an art studio and they've went through art study and they create art, whatever it may be, it gives them some happiness and helps them. Uh, well, I mentioned automobiles. That's a key thing. If you had a physically disabled child that really couldn't work a 40-hour type week, 40-hour week, and qualified for SSI, uh, then this is a great tool, and you can buy a vehicle that's modified to meet their needs. Perhaps they uh, don't have any lower limbs beyond the knee. Vehicles can be adapted for that. Or if they're in a wheelchair, that vehicles can be adapted for that. So not only could you buy a vehicle, but you could buy a vehicle and have it adapted to meet their needs. You could also modify an existing vehicle and cover that with the trust. Uh, Something else people don't really think of, but the government doesn't care about paying for recreational activity. So if you know that and I'm just using child roughly here, but let's say your minor child or adult child really enjoys certain recreational activities, you your trustee can pay for that out of this trust. Uh, Whether it's a summer camp or uh, some sports team, just whatever it might be, recreation, something where they fit in and they're able to use their abilities to the extent they can. And it just gives them a sense of well being and happiness to contribute uh, just like everyone else does. Um, you would never really think of this, but if you've had an older person of that went into a long-term care facility and they basically uh, are paid by Medicaid and they take virtually all the funds that you receive each month, say your Social Security retirement money is taken, then this would make sense. But personal care and assistance, you can pay for health care. You could pay, not health care, hair, getting a haircut, getting a hairdo. Many, uh, well, I shouldn't stereotype, but many older ladies like to have their hair done up and would like to do that once a week, probably, if they could. And they can here. And it doesn't affect any of their other stuff. Um, but you could also, if they're living in their home and just need some assistance, the trust could pay for their ongoing caregivers at home for so long as they're able to stay in their home. So that's another great option. Um, I think the challenge I would see uh, if I was faced with having maybe a child that maybe they're turning 30 tomorrow, and I just knew that they're going to need someone all their life. What happens when my wife and I pass? Uh, this would give me a lot of peace. Uh, Give me just some peace in knowing that they're provided for. Uh, Close family friend is going to be trustee, and they'll be taken care of. They'll either be staying in their home, uh, and they'll have the money they need to make their life better, help them to enjoy the life they have and make the most of it. Because I think that's God's purpose for all of us. make the most of the life he's given us. So I would say that even if you're not there to provide the care, uh, man, this goes such a long ways. You put this, trust in place, and hopefully, depending on the resources you have, it's good, for their life. Uh, but I will throw this in, so you know, uh, if you set up a supplemental needs trust for one child, then at the end of that child's life, uh, the SSI, the Social Security Administration, is entitled to be paid back at the death of that beneficiary, along with Medicaid and any other government resources that were used. Uh, so, you know, in one case, after they're paid off, there's nothing left. Well, that's okay, because the other people around that are alive at that time are not required to pay it. But let's say that you had a significant amount of money and it was well invested. Uh, well, you pay back Medicaid, excuse me. You pay back Medicaid, you pay back uh, SSI, all of the governmental benefits, and hypothetically have $100,000 left over. You can designate where those go. They could either go back to your beneficiaries, or they could go into be sent to a charity of your choice. And but just remember as you're going through this that uh, we here are always ready to guide you through this process, help navigate through the issues that you face, and overcome those challenges, and hopefully create a bright future, uh, worry free to the extent we can, uh, as you go on about life. Um, Thanks for tuning in, and just remember, securing your loved one's future is a step by step journey, and the supplemental needs trust is just one piece of an estate plan. Uh, and the general, get back to the general discussion, whether you're doing a will-based plan, a revocable living trust plan, or one of those, and including a supplemental needs trust, most of what you're doing is talking to an attorney that's experienced in this area and can give you wise counsel, because we've seen a lot of things that went wrong, and we know how to draft documents to avoid the pitfalls, and just how to accomplish your goals. What are your goals? Uh, what at the end of the day would it make you happy to know that A, B, and C have been addressed? Uh, so I'll kind of leave it there and just say thanks for tuning in this afternoon. If you do me this favor, if you watch this live, would you type in hashtag live in the comment section? Another thing, if you got anything of value out of this presentation, type in hashtag value. And then for those of you that are going to watch this on a replay later in the day or later in the week, type in hashtag replay. I'll go back and look at those comments, and it'll help guide me as to when I end up, setting a live up. So whether it be more engaging later in the evening or earlier, different days of the week, you can put all that in the comments as well.